The rain was pouring, drenching the city streets in shimmering reflections of neon lights. Emily clutched her umbrella, her chest tight, her thoughts a whirlwind. She had only stepped into the café for a quick coffee on her way home, but what she saw inside made her heart stop. Her ex, Daniel, tall, charming, with the same smirk that once made her fall for him, but also the smirk that had hidden lies and betrayal. He was standing just a few steps away, ordering coffee as if he hadn't shattered her heart a year ago. Her pulse quickened. She couldn't let him see her. Not tonight, not when she was still patching together the pieces of her life. And that's when she did it. Without a second thought, Emily turned sharply and walked toward the nearest man sitting by the window. Before she could talk herself out of it, she leaned down, slipped her arms around his shoulders, and whispered desperately, "Please, just play along. My ex is here." The stranger froze for a second, his coffee cup hovering midair. But then, to her relief, he set it down and gently wrapped his arms around her, his voice low and calm. "Got it, don't worry." Emily felt his warmth, steady and reassuring, in contrast to the chaos in her chest. For a moment, she forgot the reason she was hugging a stranger at all. Daniel's voice rang behind her. "Emily." She squeezed the stranger tighter, forcing a smile as she turned her head. "Hi, Daniel. Sorry, I'm with someone." She gestured to the man she was holding. Daniel's eyes flickered with surprise, then narrowed. He muttered something under his breath and walked out, leaving behind a faint trail of cologne and memories Emily had fought hard to erase. Her shoulders sagged in relief. She pulled back quickly, her face burning. "I am so sorry. That was insane. I don't know what I was thinking." The man chuckled, his eyes kind but curious. "Well, I wasn't expecting a hug with my coffee, but hey, it's the nicest surprise I've had all week." Emily managed a laugh, though her cheeks were crimson. She studied him properly now, dark hair slightly tousled, a sharp jawline, but softened by warm, intelligent eyes. He looked grounded, like someone you could trust. "I'm Emily," she offered, awkwardly smoothing her coat. "Ryan," he replied, "and you're welcome." What Emily didn't know, what she couldn't possibly imagine, was that Ryan wasn't just an ordinary man sipping coffee in the corner. He was one of the city's youngest millionaires, the quiet owner of several successful businesses, but he hated the spotlight. He preferred being underestimated, unseen. And now, fate had introduced him to Emily in the most unexpected way. A second chance at trust. Over the next few days, Emily couldn't stop replaying the encounter. She told herself it was just a moment of panic, a random act. But something about Ryan lingered in her mind, the calm in his voice, the way he'd protected her without hesitation. Fate seemed determined to prove it wasn't a one-time thing. A week later, she ran into him again, this time at the bookstore she frequented on weekends. She was sitting on the floor between shelves, flipping through a self-help book about healing after heartbreak, when she heard that same calm voice. "Small world," Ryan said, crouching beside her with a grin. She laughed nervously. "I swear I'm not following you." "Good," he teased, "because if you were, you'd have to at least buy me another coffee." That was the beginning. Coffee turned into casual conversations, conversations turned into late-night texts, and soon, Emily found herself opening up to him in ways she hadn't thought possible again. She told him about Daniel, how he'd cheated, how she'd felt worthless, how she was terrified of trusting anyone new. Ryan listened, really listened. He didn't try to fix her. He didn't offer cliches. He just gave her space to be honest, and in that space, she began to breathe again. What Emily didn't know yet was that Ryan was fighting his own battles. His wealth was a double-edged sword. People wanted him for what he had, not who he was. Relationships in his past had been transactional, shallow. He longed for someone genuine, someone who didn't care about his bank account. That's why he hadn't told Emily the truth yet. He wanted her to fall for Ryan, the man, not Ryan, the millionaire. The first challenge. But secrets have a way of catching up. One evening, as they walked out of the bookstore together, a flashy car pulled up to the curb. A man stepped out, shaking Ryan's hand with the familiarity of business. "Ryan, the investor dinner's tomorrow, don't forget." The press will be there. And bring a date if you can. Emily's brows furrowed. Investor dinner? She asked, confused. Ryan's jaw tightened. He forced a smile. Just work stuff. He quickly changed the subject, but Emily's mind lingered on it. She wasn't naive. She could tell he wasn't telling her the whole story. That night, she lay awake, her chest heavy. Was she falling into another trap? Another man with secrets? When she confronted him gently the next day, Ryan hesitated. His biggest fear sat on his tongue. If she finds out who I am, she'll only see my money. So he lied. It's just a side project. Nothing big. Emily wanted to believe him, but something in his eyes told her there was more. The truth revealed. The truth came crashing out 2 weeks later. Emily was scrolling through her phone when she stumbled upon an article about the city's most eligible millionaire bachelor. And there he was, Ryan, in a tailored suit, standing beside a sleek building he apparently owned. Her stomach dropped. A storm of emotions hit her all at once: shock, anger, betrayal. Not because he was rich, but because he hadn't trusted her with the truth. Memories of Daniel's lies flooded back, tearing open scars she thought had healed. When Ryan called that evening, her voice trembled. You lied to me, Emily, please. No, she cut him off, tears welling in her eyes. I don't care about your money. I care that you weren't honest. Do you know how hard it was for me to trust again? And you, her voice broke. You made me feel like a fool. She hung up before he could answer. Ryan sat in silence, the weight of his own fears crushing him. He hadn't meant to hurt her, he just wanted to protect what they had. But now, he realized, by hiding the truth, he'd become the very thing she was afraid of. The fight to heal. Days passed in painful silence. Emily avoided his calls, drowning herself in work, in books, in anything to escape the ache in her chest. She told herself she was done, that she couldn't go through betrayal again. But late at night, she found herself remembering the little things, how he always remembered her favorite tea, how he listened without judgment, how he made her laugh when she thought she'd forgotten how. And Ryan, he was a wreck. For the first time in years, he wanted someone not because of appearances or expectations, but because of who she was. Emily had seen him as a man, not a millionaire. Losing her felt unbearable, so he did something he'd never done before. He showed up, not with gifts, not with apologies wrapped in expensive things, but with raw honesty. He stood outside her apartment in the rain, soaked and trembling, until she opened the door. Emily, his voice cracked. I messed up. I didn't tell you because I was scared. I've been used so many times for my money that I thought, if you knew, you'd see me differently. But with you, I wanted to be just Ryan. The man you hugged in a cafe. The man who fell for you, not because of anything you had, but because of who you are. Emily's eyes filled with tears. Do you have any idea what it feels like to be lied to? To be made to feel like the truth isn't enough. I do, he said softly. And that's why I'll never lie to you again. You're not like anyone I've ever met. And if I lose you, then all the money in the world means nothing. Silence stretched between them, heavy but full of possibility. Emily's heart warred with her head. She wanted to protect herself, but she also knew, deep down, that Ryan wasn't Daniel. He had flaws, yes, but he had shown her kindness, patience, and sincerity in ways no one else had. Slowly, she stepped aside, letting him in. The resolution. It wasn't easy. Healing never is. Emily needed time to rebuild trust, and Ryan needed to prove his honesty day after day. But they worked through it, together. They faced whispers from the media, judgment from friends, and even moments of doubt. Yet every challenge became a stepping stone, every setback a reminder of what they were fighting for. Emily learned that not all secrets are meant to hurt, sometimes they're born from fear. And Ryan learned that true love doesn't need masks, it needs vulnerability. Months later, as they sat in that same cafe where it all began, Emily leaned into him with a smile. You know, if I hadn't hugged you that day, I probably would have run straight out the door. Ryan chuckled. Best ambush hug of my life. She laughed, her heart lighter than it had been in years. Maybe fate knew what it was doing. And as his fingers intertwined with hers, Emily realized the lesson she'd been searching for all along. Love isn't about perfection. It's about finding someone who sees your scars, your fears, your mistakes, and chooses to stay anyway. Final message: their story reminds us that healing after heartbreak is possible, that trust can be rebuilt, and that sometimes the scariest leaps, the ones into the unknown, lead us to exactly where we're meant to be. So if you've ever been broken, if you've ever been afraid to love again, remember Emily and Ryan. Remember that the right person won't just accept your past, they'll help you believe in your future. Because sometimes, one hug can change everything.